I want to welcome our guest, Matt Warzel.
Hello.
I love saying that, man. I love that. Warzel.
Yeah.
It sounds really manly, really tough, really strong, right? I love it.
That's my Slovakian roots. Exactly.
Oh, is that what it is? Is that where you're from?
Well, and it's funny. I just found this out within the last 10 years anyway, too, because we had some catching up to do on our lineage. But yeah, there's Slovakia. We thought we were Hungary, I guess, or Polish my whole life. And then we kind of figured it out once all the technology started coming in with the online stuff. So turned out I was Slovakian. And then my mom's Sicilian. So
interesting combination.
Yeah. It's real cut and dry. I'm not like my wife with 15 different countries going on.
That's so interesting. Same thing with my wife. Like she has like 10 different, countries that, she's from a little bit here, a little bit here. Yeah. And me, no, just like really one spot. That's really it for the most part.
It's really easy when you're collecting like cultural things. You're like, oh, I just grab like a shirt here, shirt there. I don't have to worry about, spending too much out there.
So for this show, we're going to do something a little different. Usually we start out with somebody who kind of will share, what they do and all that. But with Matt, we've talked about before we started that, hey, it'd be pretty neat for a guy who started a career coaching business, about 10, 15, how many years ago?
So it was 2009 when I officially took off the recruiter hat.
So what is that? That's like 100 years ago, right?
Right.
Like,
I mean, feels like it. It's like,
right. Does it do, right? You hear 2009, you feel like oh my God, it's so far away. So you started right in the financial crisis. And what we want to talk about today a little bit to start with is a little behind the scenes, because you always hear afterwards, after a company is started and the results, but oftentimes you don't know what happened to make it happen. So can you share a little bit what made you start and to become a career coach? How did it work? How did you get your first clients? How did you make money? So this is kind of an inside scoop for what really goes on.
And it's funny, I was a bit of the Wild West starting a company, but all right. So my idea is right now we're fading in and it's like a History Channel documentary. And we show me back then played by someone awesome. And you got, Liv Schreiber's narration coming through. No, I thank you for this. It's fun to kind of talk about yourself, right? So I usually am just regurgitating advice on a lot of podcasts. So this is nice to explore the, go under the hood, so to speak. So I started off literally right out of school in sales. I went to John Carroll University in Cleveland, Ohio, home of only Don Shula and Tim Russert and no one else. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And so I got into paper sales, got laid off because that was kind of like when the office started and everyone kind of saw paper was dying. And so I was distraught because like that was like my first job out of school. I was actually having an income and all those things. So I had a friend's like, yeah, you should get into recruiting. And I was like, I have no idea what that is. And she's like, yeah, Aerotech is hiring. And this was in Cleveland. And the guy who started Aerotech, Steve Bisciotti, he owns the Ravens, and he made $1 billion with a couple of his buddies in the basement. And so I kind of like went on this interview, not even knowing, not even look up research. I do everything like you're supposed to do. I didn't do any of it because you're out of school and you don't know any better. And so I just went in there cold, and he's like, did you research? I'm like, yeah, I looked at you. And he's like, what'd you figure out? I was like, well, you guys are, you're in tech or whatever. So it was Aerotech, and they're like, no, we're staffing. Did you look up TECH or TEK? And I was like, TECH, like that worked because it was spelled TEK. So I somehow BS my way into that job, but I ended up doing well there and having fun. And hiring manager still, I'm friends with him. He's out of Charlotte. He just retired, and he still goes. Your interview still gives me nightmares because I was the jokey guy, but I took it real. I mean, I loved the recruiting. It was just it's an emotional roller coaster though, and it's not a 9 to 5 and it's not a part-time mental real estate. It kind of takes over, right? So I had just you get your lumps and you do well, and it's always kind of a intense game in staffing because it's not HR. Your customers they're moving. So then I said, well, there's a lot of companies hiring recruiters, contract work in Cleveland that were paying like 3 times the amount I was making. because they were contract gigs. You lose bennies, but you get all this, you get a bunch of money. And so I thought, well, heck. So I just went through that and started getting contracts and round up, working at like Goodrich and PNC, just some nice companies. And then I thought, well, I want to be a movie star and I want to write. That was my second life in the background, because when I was out of school, I was trying to do comedy and actually getting.
Wait, can I take a pause here? Let me just kind of dial back for a second. So you fell into recruiting, like
recruiting,
right? Which, can I tell you, as a recruiter for like 25 years, I would say probably 99% of people who are recruiting just fell into it. They didn't plan on it; they just kind of fell into it. So you started recruiting. But you did what, more staffing? How did that work? It was like,
at first Aerotech built sort of staffing. So it's not the widget inspectors, although I did some of those because we were automotive. So I had a lot of tiered suppliers who would call us. We need people at midnight to 3 a.m. and we're, driving to Youngstown at 11 p.m. at night.
So these what more blue collar jobs that you were?
So this is the thing. Our office, they had blue collar, and then they had all the way up to engineers and stuff. I was lucky enough that our automotive division, I was all production engineers, production supervisors, ops managers, all manufacturing engineers, IEs, EEs, MEs, so I dealt with just engineers and production manufacturing, dipped into the, we had green and environmental. I would recruit some recs for, we had some aerospace I'd recruit for, you get pulled in, right? So you're constantly just recruiting everyone because you look at the office and you're like, who has what? And so you're trying to get your spread up, right? So the way we played the Aerotech game was hire someone, get them in as low as possible, and then go to the client GM and say, here's the person for 6 months. Now pay us this much more. And then we make that money, right?
So this was not like a permanent placement. This would be, you would get somebody for like an hourly, and then you would make spread between what the candidate gets and then how much you're going to kind of bill out,
right? So if they don't show up to work, you're not getting paid. Right. Exactly. And some go temp to perm. They weren't all just 3, 6, 9, 12 month contracts, 18 months. Sometimes some were temp to perm.
And then if it goes temp to perm, you kind of get a change, and then you could get like a placement fee for like, where they count the amount of money that you already pocketed and maybe take that off, and then the rest would be from a placement fee, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly. Aerotech was a well-oiled machine. I mean, I know you've heard of them probably just being in recruiting, but they did it. And it was the first time I learned business acumen, because I came out of school, a putz, who's just a party animal trying to make everybody laugh. And you were built. I went to a really, really good high school and college, though. They were Jesuit based. So, all guys for my high school. And so, not that does anything, but it's just more of those kind of very stiff, rigid environments. You might as well be like a Yale junior, right? So I grew up with rich kids and stuff. And my dad's my old man was 30 years working at GM as a tool and die supervisor. So we were on the fringes of all the people that were there. But I mean, we had, guy who made Murphy oil. So went to that high school and all stuff. So we have really high esteemed people. So I had some good, wherewithal. I was smart enough, but I just didn't really understand business, right? So when you get there, they train you like you are very much a business person. You are running your business, right? Your little operations of finding people. So it just drilled into me like, I got to take this stuff serious if I want to like be ahead in things. I can't just kind of kick the tires of life, right? So, but it was nice going into HR recruiting, because now my clients are my managers around the plant. Right. So I went and visited those guys and those girls and say, hey, what do you need? Right. And then it wasn't as stressful, because it's like, yeah, they need it now. But even if you presented them with someone, it'd be like a week for the interview, because they're hire managers and they're busy. Right. Versus the GM and the Fords and the Aerotech business, where these big companies were like, it's you versus 15 other agencies out there looking for people. So you better get them in there quick. Right. And get them hired. It was less cutthroat in HR. But oh yeah, go ahead.
And then before I cut you off,
you're fine.
You said then you wanted to segue. So there's a time I guess you segued out of recruiting and staffing.
Yes.
To try comedy and try screenwriting. Is that?
It was no segue out. It was 2 lives being led. So
okay, you do the same time.
Same time. So everyone at Aerotech knew I was writing screenplays at work during lunch, or like
Okay.
getting ideas and writing them in, and they'd even feed me ideas, because I used to be I used to like write everything, record everything, transcribe it. Like, I mean, I was doing stand-up and improv and acting and trying to crack that nut, and realize Cleveland's not it. So
Wait, I just so what happened? Were you the guy who would just be the class clown and you goof around, and then people tell you, "Hey, man, you're really funny. You should go to like an open night, mic night." Is that what happened? And then you're like, "Oh, let's do it."
kind of, sort of. I was voted best or most likely against Saturday Night Live in our grade school. So I was all like, even back then, I was like, I used to write a comic book. I'd write it, and my buddy would illustrate it. My dad would make copies for me at GM, and then I hand them out. Like, it was like a once a month series, my 8th grade. And so there was like 12 comic books we wrote or something, and like, so I was always like trying to like be creative. It's just, well, and so what happened essentially was, in Cleveland, I said, babe, I'm getting my wife Jamie, who I met in college. I go, I'm getting the bug to try to really do this. Should we go to LA? Because everyone goes there, and they just wait for you to get off the plane and offer you all this money and lavishness. They're like, here, we've been waiting for this guy. All right. So she's like, yeah, let's go. I don't care. Because she was doing technical writing. And so luckily she got out of it, because she worked at National City Bank, which was turned into PNC. They're the ones that helped facilitate the meltdown in 08. She didn't even know back then, but she was like working in an office that was like one of the main bad ones. And so I was on my end of my contract at Dealer Tire, finding some engineers over there. And then I said, all right, let's go to LA. And so we started looking for work. And it took me 6, 7, 8 months or something like that, but got 2 interviews, one with BP Long Beach and one with Johnson Controls in Whittier. And BP Long Beach flew me out there for the interview when I was in LA, and this is like 2006. In LA, she's like, or the guy at Johnson's like, can you meet? And I was like, no, I'm looking for an apartment. Like, I really blew him off. I almost feel bad. Like, I just don't know what the hell I was thinking back then. But like, and then he ends up calling back. He's like, Dad, that's fine. Let's just hire you. I like the way you just sound on the phone. I was like, sweet. So I told BP, I was like, Johnson Controls just hired me. What can you do? Because here's what they're offering. And they're giving me a relo, because I told them about BP. They're offering me something. So I kind of worked the negotiation on a whim, man. It's just perfect timing, and managed to get an extra, 510 plus relo. And so my wife and I and my parents drove 2 cars across country on Route 66 from Cleveland, Ohio to Burbank, California, and started our new life, and did Johnson Controls during the day and did comedy at night and acting at night. And then when I'd had auditions, luckily at my work, I drove around LA because I was doing recruiting, but also facilitating a new hires program, trying to get kids in the area from colleges into Johnson Controls. So I'd go out and give speeches and tell them all about our program. Well, I'd parlay days for auditions, right? So I'd go audition and then go to this college and then go back to the office. And so I'd drive around LA for 3 years, man. And it just, it was rough. It was rough. And then the fallout came. We had no life. It was just work. I blew up to 350 pounds. We stopped going to church. I had no friends out there. All we had was just colleagues. And it was just like, the writing was on the wall. And so I kind of had a quasi breakdown. It was very weird. I had this like influx of anxiety, and I didn't really know how to handle it. So it broke me down. Took about 4 years to get through it, but it kicked me in the rear end though, to freaking start working out. I got on Weight Watchers and started my business, and like just kind of went from like, what am I going to do in my world? I just remember being on the bed in Burbank, like looking up going, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with my life. And it was scary. Right. And so, and at that point, all I did with acting was I got on iCarly. I got on iCarly on Nickelodeon, which was cool. And then I was like, all right, I'm done. So we relocated east. I had a best friend in Wilmington, North Carolina. My parents were an hour away near Myrtle. And he's like, come here. And I was like, whatever, I just got to get out of LA. We're losing money and I'm losing my mind. And so I'm like, and it's rough out there. I mean, it's a big city. For anyone who's lived out there understands what I'm talking about. And it's like, I won't go into too much more. So when we get out east, and at that point, well, no, I should say this. Before I left, I did start MJW, my company, in 09. So I started recruiting though. I was recruiting only. I wasn't really writing resumes. I was just like, I'll just go be a freelance recruiter while I'm looking for recruiting work, and just kept that going. And I got a couple clients on a whim for resume writing. And I can't remember how. I think it was just talking or whatever, but I was like, oh, this could be a thing. I've been doing resumes in the background automatically for clients all my life, right? I didn't really think it was a business. And so then I started just doing the bare bones minimum when you're starting a business. How do you start a business? And we had internet, so luckily. But back then it was like, get on every Yellow Pages, get on MySpace. I don't even know if LinkedIn, I might have been on LinkedIn. I don't know, maybe. But it was like, you really just were finding your own ways of marketing and doing everything that was available. And it wasn't as big, massive as it is today, right? So there was a little bit more control. And then when it came to like putting the bones together and stuff, it was literally a trial by fire, go as you go. First year of business, I mean, I made like $1,000. And then the second year, it was like, whatever, it kind of was incrementally getting better. And as that happened, I took it more serious, right? It wasn't such a, hey, I'll do your resume. You ain't gonna spend that much. I mean, I used to charge, I think it was like my first resumes were $65 or something. And, and now they're $800, but it's because, I've been doing it for 20 years. My science is a lot better than it was, but you're just doing the best you can as a solopreneur, trying to provide value for people and quality work for the pricing point you're offering, right? And so I found it just that I'm doing good work for people, but is this what I want to do still? I want to still write and act. And so these two lives in Wilmington, North Carolina just lived together, and they still do. It's just the acting thing is only acting. I don't write anymore. I don't stand up or any of that stuff. I made a feature film. We guerrilla styled it. It got distribution. I got lucky. I mean, it was a lot of hard work, hours and hours and thousands of dollars, but I did get it done. You could rent it. And after that, I did some theater work, and meanwhile, just auditioned. So, but I just canceled all of it, but auditioning. I told my agent, I'm like, I'm just get me auditions from now on. And that's all I'm going to really do. So that's fizzled a little. It's fun. But I stuck with it the last, like really, really hard up until we got the house, 2015. When I got the house, I thought, this is it. Now I have a big responsibility. So that's kind of when I started becoming a more of a business versus a solopreneur kind of thing, right? It took it more serious. But yeah, for those first 6 years, recruited for a couple of years while coaching and writing, and then it kind of just fizzled out recruiting because it's full-time job. So then went into just coaching and resume writing since probably 2012. And then just the thing with trying to identify what I did and what action steps to like build a business, it's complicated because as you know, when you're building a business, you may look at legal stuff one day and your research drains, puts you in this hole, and then all of a sudden you're implementing a few things from that research, and then there's the accounting research day or the marketing and sales. So there's always things coming in that you're either implementing, trying, or just not doing, right? So for me, it was very much a get by as lean as I can without spending money. And to this day, I tell my wife, that's one of my biggest regrets in life is not putting more money into my business back then and taking it more serious. And trying to kind of be the star still, right? It was such a waste of time. And my friends are like, yeah, but you're in Outer Banks and you're in Bad Moms Christmas. And, I've been in like 15 movies, but it's like, yeah, it's fun. I get a little bit of money, residuals from the mailbox money, but I mean, it's, nickel here, $5 there. It's not feeding me, but it's like, yeah, and it's cool. I got to work with some cool people. I met Bette Miller. I worked with her and Billy Crystal and Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling, the guy who was just in Barbie. I worked with that guy. In fact, that was the coolest thing I ever did was working with him, just purely based off the situation. But yeah, it's just, I wish someone would just said, don't try to do acting. It's like a damn near impossible nut to crack. You ain't never going to do it. Focus on making money. Go into real estate. Go make money. So when you're 42, you don't have to work so hard.
So when did you make that crossover to say, all right, I'm just going to really hunker down. Now I'm going to focus on being a career coach, resume writer, and that's it. I'm all in on that.
That was 2012, but then 2012 was just that for the coaching side of my business, right? Like I dropped recruiting, and then 2015 is where I kind of faded off from the acting and that entertainment business. So I would say since 15, so a good 8 years now, all in. I started scaling in terms of like my automation stuff, and like not scaling in terms of building my support system, although I do have a decent support system, but it's like, I mean, like in terms of like trying to automate and kind of scale in terms of like get the business kind of doing its own thing, right? A lot. And then I've got my, my marketing and sales strategies and just my really nice day-to-day processes. One thing I will say I wish I would have done was document half the stuff as I'm going through, because now I'm on the back end trying to document some of this. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing here again? Because, you might not visit a certain process for a couple of weeks or at a time, and you just got to kind of think through it. And you're like, man, how do I train someone else to do this? So kind of that, and that's my goal, is eventually get like an operator to help, right? So I don't have to do as much emails and just focus on the deliverables and sales calls, right? Kind of the storefront stuff. But I'll get there. I just don't, like me again, it's hard to trust people once you start going, here, you take over communications for my business, my storefront. It's like, man, because I know how to say stuff, right? I know exactly what I'm doing. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that handoff in the next couple of years.
So how did you start building? How did you start getting clients?
Word of mouth was helpful. Putting yourself out there. I did everything and anything that you could see as a gimmick. So, I did Valpak, which I actually did recently, again, just something fun. But it doesn't work. It's $500 or something, but it was like, all right, I'll try some stuff. So pretty much trial and error. I would say the biggest things that helped, what were the biggest things that helped first was contract work. Because I didn't know what the hell I was doing with professional resume writing. And I had to learn. It's a lot different than writing as a recruiter. And so I got lucky. I worked for Live Career, and my mentor, Joelle Machanik, what's her last? Geez, that's the person who got me an Aerotech. Joelle, they both have Joelles. The two people that are probably the most important for my recruiting. One who got me in, and the other one who kind of got me to think about writing, because when I was writing resumes, I was using these ambiguous words, or I was trying to sound, how smart can I make this sentence sound? And then she completely changed my mindset and taught me how to frame my sentence structures that I still do today. It's very much a less is more, cause and effect. You've heard of PAR, CAR, all name it, whatever. But the goal is to get at least amount of words as possible and have a fine line of business focused terminology, business focused verbiage. Don't complicate it, and don't cater to just the technical side of people, because you're going to lose all the recruiters who are usually marketing majors, management majors. We didn't go to school for half the crap we're recruiting for. And then the robots, right? So you have all these audience people in the hierarchy of vetting, and everyone's just so damn worried about the hiring team that they lose all the interest and all the fundamental stories they could have told in a fundamental way to present themselves as someone who's ideal. They blow it out the water because they got to be smart, cute, quirky, funny, fancy, just whatever they can do to stand out. It's like, no, get the point across about why you're worth wasting time on for a half hour, because you're probably going to waste their time if you're not the person. Just get that across in the least amount of words possible, and you're good. Us recruiters are busybodies, I don't need pictures and fancy stuff. I need to see where the hell you worked, and if you're going to be a craphead when you start. Are you going to be someone who's going to be here in 6 months? Okay, good. So far, yeah, you won't be. Okay, are you going to fit this job? Or are you going to show up day one with everyone's wool over their eyes? Okay, no, this person has had experience with telemechanique controls. Cool. Ford needs someone with telemechanique. Okay, wow, we can marry these two together. And it's not science, right? But it's the fact that, we have to be, as recruiters, investigators, with like a keen eye of like, how are you going to screw me?
So were you still like a recruiter / resume writer / career coach at that time?
Then I was recruiting still. Yeah, recruiting all the way till 2012. I said, my last contract was ABB, trying to find energy engineers in the middle of Houston, Texas. And these guys and girls had to know specific something or another, and it was so funny because like It was like this nationwide. I mean, I'm sure you even had it at one point. It was like this nationwide search of like everyone's involved because no one could find these people. And like I found a couple people that were willing to relocate, and it all fizzled. And I thought, man, am I working so hard for like nothing, right? And with recruiting, I think you need more of a support structure to make that thing tick better. Versus coaching, resume writing. I can kind of handle a lot more. But with recruiting, I mean, what are you going to do? Go do sales all day and try to generate the requisitions, and then you got to go find the people then, so
it's hard to do. It's hard to do as a solopreneur.
Yeah.
So like I always had a team around me because, as you pointed out, there's so many different facets of it. You have to reach out, get new clients. You have to handhold your existing clients. You have to recruit, find people. You have to kind of get them through the whole interview process. So it's a lot to do. So if you're just like one guy, that's pretty brutal.
Yeah, and negotiations. All that money,
right. Kind of going through that. And then, so what happens? Like, was there a point where then you pivoted and say, hey, I'm just going to focus on career coaching and specialize in that area?
Yeah. So I essentially for coaching and resume writing since 15, but it was more resume writing because I got lucky to do all the contracts and that's a good way to get it. If someone's out there trying to work contract gigs, because you're going to get volume. You won't get paid much, but you're going to learn.
Yeah. What do you mean by contract gig? Like what is that?
So you go to like, resumes.com. I mean, not that that's even a website. I'm sure it is, but I don't know what they do, but resumes.com say they're hiring a resume writer and they'll pay you like, let's call it $50 a resume. Take those and do those a lot. And that's how the 1 year I made, my biggest year, I made it like it was like 340 or something. And I was like, holy shit, babe, excuse me. Again, the tax man cometh because I wasn't.
Wait, when you say 340,000.
Yeah.
And that's just from writing resumes, or that's from everything you've been like juggling?
That was just resumes and coaching, just the MJW stuff. Now, having said that.
Well, how many resumes did you crank out? It has to be, that's a lot of resumes.
I did
for like $90 or $50 a shot.
It was only 50. I mean, some places were offering 150, they varied, but 50 was kind of the standard back then. But
so dude, wait a minute. My math is not so good, but that has to be a lot of resumes.
Freaking resumes. I wrote one time, we went to Cleveland for opening day, the Indians, and they canceled because of the cold. And I go, well, tomorrow's even colder. They hold it the next day and it was even colder, but they still hold it. All my buddies are leaving. And I'm like this, and I'm at the guy's uncle's house, the uncle who's like this drunk hanging out near us. I'm like, I gotta hang with this guy all day by myself. I write resumes. And so I was just sitting there in this guy's house in Lakewood, Ohio, watching the Indians on TV while I just wrote all day long. And then I wrote the entire way home from Cleveland to Wilmington, which is 12 hours all day. We were on our way there and we stopped over in there's a peak over there somewhere in North Carolina where the Andy Griffith Show was filmed. And we stopped to go hiking. What do you think I did when they went and hiked? I sat in the car and just wrote. I sacrificed so much like stuff because I would just be like this, just writing. And I'm good at writing. I'm quick. I understand how to conceptualize it quick, right? So it's not hard for me to pump them out. It's just, it's the work. It's tedious, right? And you got to do it right. So that was the year where I was a madman, and it was such a like a great year to kind of, make me feel like I'm on the right track. But I've not hit that since, but that's the goal.
Yeah, was that still during the financial crisis? I'm losing track of the time there, and that people were out of work, so they needed resumes. Is that
17 roughly? So when the financial crisis happened, just call it like this. I was in LA 06, 7-ish to 09 because of the financial collapse, right? It forced me out of there. Right. And then 09 till 12, I was just kicking tires, doing acting stuff, half in resume business. Hey, if you need a resume, hit me up. If not, I'm not going to be worried about it, right? Still made efforts to grow it, but very minimal, because I was also making efforts to make that feature film and to keep my agent happy and go do theater work and stand up and improv. So I was constantly it was a time game. So I'm very good.
Yeah. What are you doing now? Is it So are you still doing resumes and career coaching and recruiting, or how's it
Yeah,
going now?
yeah. Recruiting ended in 12. Recruiting ended in 12
Okay.
for ABB. So I had 12 to 15. Again, I continue kicking the tires a little bit, still trying to do acting. And then 15 is where I said, all right, that's it. I'm just going full time on the coaching stuff. Acting, like I said, it's
So how did it go with the coaching? So how's that going?
the coaching. I love it. So I was more writing than coaching for a while, right? Because my coaching was a
Right.
little priced, I think, at the time I priced it, and I had to dumb it down. I was like, maybe people aren't ready for this, and nor was I ready to deliver it, right? I didn't have a system in place that was robust
Right.
enough. And then eventually, we'll call it a few years, I went through that journey of building that. And that's what became my second book, which is what I use for my coaching program now for my clients. It's a very much it's a 6-week program, and it's Monday through Friday.
Right.
And every day you have stuff to do. And it's me guiding you every day of to-dos. I'm a big believer of achieving your kind of projects success stuff is in chunks and just micro leveling stuff constantly. So that's where I get my clients on that same kind of mental train for just the time we're job hunting. If they want to adopt it in their real life, great. But just for job hunting, do me a favor, stick to a calendar, do this stuff whenever you got to find the time, right? It might have to be Saturdays if you had a long week at work. God forbid you got to spend some time job hunting if you want to get a new job. That's the other thing. It's like, come on, people, if you want to get a new job, you got to put a little time in. But that's where I try to get my clients as like a kind of quasi motivator, quasi inspiration stuff sometimes, like, or just kind of get them to keep sticking to it. Cause most of the time that's the battle. It's not that they're incapable, it's just the time, right? But yeah, it's a fun, and I like my program too, because it's like, again, they don't think. That's what I want my clients to just react. I've had too many marketing people sell me the whole house, and they go, oh, well, you're only getting the guest house. It's like, well, the thing said the whole house on it. And so I've had that too many times. Or they'll say, gee, here for 10 grand, we won't build the house, but I'll tell you what, I can tell you that what you could do is you put up 4 walls, you put a roof on it, and some bricks underneath, and it'll be pretty good. And then they walk away and you're like, thanks for that advice. I could have chat GPT.
So what do you see now especially with chat GPT, where people feel, hey, I could just, go on Bard or go on, chat GPT or Claude or whatever, and just find out this stuff myself. Is that impacting business?
I'm sure it will. Thing with that stuff is, like,
you don't see that. You don't feel that right now, though. It sounds like.
not for the writing. Now, again, the younger folks of the world, maybe, right? Early career folks, maybe they might be taking advantage of that a lot more, just having grown up a little bit more with that stuff. But I'm not too worried. I deliver expertise is what I'm not trying to just be a service provider. Hey, I'm not in this, like, hey, I'll be the necessary evil for you, like an accountant or lawyer. I just need this resume. Go away, Matt. I don't ever want to talk to you until I need it again, right? I'm fine with that too. We can have that relationship. But my goal is for us to, in the macro level thinking, my goal is that you create your own opportunities and you create your own journey of where you want to go with your career, and not rely on, gee, in June that month, or gee, June of that year, all that was hiring was Pepsi. So I went to Pepsi, and now I'm here 15 years later. It's like, well, shit, if you hated Pepsi your whole life, why'd you go work there, right? Well, because that was the available job that month. So if we're living life by availability and opportunities just kind of like fumbling their way around, it's like, that's not very smart if you want to have some sort of happiness or some sort of fulfillment. Now, again, not everyone. Some people, like my brother, love just going to work. They don't talk to anybody. They go home. They get their check, right? But the people that really want to get ahead or do something, well, shit, let's grab control of this, and let's not make it a frazzled process of, in April, I get the resume, so in May, I'm getting a job. It's like, chill out, breathe, and let's do this right. It might take 6 months, but in the long run, you'll be happier in 6 years because you freaking were patient enough, right? And so that's my goal, is delivering expertise of like, let's do it together and let's build yourself a career that you're happy with, not one that you're just like dealing with, right? Because everyone knows when dad comes home angry because he hates his work. Well, shit, dad, do you want to do that the rest of your life, or do you want to change it up, man? And it's not that much money, $3,500. Oh my God, what? I pay more in landscaping every year. Not me, but most people probably pay more in landscaping every year. So it's like, that's the thing, is like, you spend money to make money. spend money to get ahead. It all works with everybody, right? So I appreciate you asking me about the coaching program, because that's kind of what I really prided myself on, last handful of years. It took me.
Okay, can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Okay. Just from the little bit we're talking now, right?
Yeah.
Let me frame this. My takeaway from this conversation is that you're very gregarious. You're an extrovert. You
Yep.
love interacting with people. You love talking with people. You love the banter. To me, it seems like maybe the resumes put aside, I think you have to find a way to use your interpersonal skills and your motivation and your upbeat personality to find ways to bring people in, and maybe even have like group coaching, maybe have some sort of meetups where you could, because it feels like you vibe when you have a lot of people around you, and you're the person who kind of gets the party started.
Yeah, right.
So I think, I don't mean to give you coaching advice because I'm not a career coach, but it seems from the outside perspective, it is always easy from the outside perspective because it's not you. When it's for you, it's always harder to be, kind of critical of what's going on. So have you considered maybe saying, hey, let me get this kind of group coaching, especially now that you could do it on Zoom, have these kind of group coaching where you can get a whole group of people together and you can just make it like a party where you're helping them. They're learning, they're understanding how to find a new job, how to succeed, how to move forward, how to negotiate a salary, how to do an elevator pitch, all that kind of good stuff, but in a really fun way, because a lot of this stuff isn't so fun doing it, it's work.
I know.
But have you ever thought of that? Because that would be working from your strengths. That would be working because, you're very verbal, you're very excited, you're very passionate, and that comes off.
I appreciate that. I know I used to say, my joke was, there's always a party in my head, everyone's invited kind of thing. I forgot how it went, something like that. But my wife and I used to joke about that. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. That has been one of my kind of recurring iCal to-dos, and I've slowly been chipping away at it.
See, but the thing is this, Stuart, I don't mean to interrupt, but I think what happens, again, I'm just noticing that from like this, the conversation today. And that's, it's not fair to judge just or make decisions based on that. But it sounds like your brain is going way fast and you're thinking of 10 different things at once.
Yeah.
And I don't know if maybe your wife is like the kind of person to say, wait, Matt, let's just, instead of like talking and think about acting and writing and comic books and this, let's just hone it down. Let's find one or two things you're really good at. And let's focus on that one or two things and let's excel at that one or two things. And that's where we could hit it out of the ballpark. That's where we can make a lot of money and make a big difference and help a lot of people's lives.
It's true. The riches are in the niches, they say. And yeah, it's been a struggle trying to figure out how to niche down into certain audiences. But yeah,
all right, so let's do it. Let's do this. Let's do this live, right? So what niche do you feel that would resonate, that people would be interested in to help? Like what kind of people? It sounds like you had a whole bunch of different recruiting, contract, staffing kind of roles in different industries. Were there any specific industries that you're passionate about or you just really like the people who work there?
Yeah, see, that's kind of the catch-22. The industries I like aren't going to pay me. It's like production supervisors usually aren't going to pay me to do like a necessary.
So who are the ones who would come in who pay? Who are the ones who like would say, hey, I'll pony up what, 100, 200, 300 an hour? Like what's the
Yeah. And it's like, so like usually directors, like you get senior contributors would probably be the bottom, right? Senior contributors, like, people been doing like, engineers for 20 years. They just don't want to go and manage people or something. Or all the way up to, and I've helped C-suite, but I don't know if I want to per se market to them. I'd rather kind of stick right at that director. So that's kind of it. Senior contributor, director. I'm fine with any industry, although just again, growing up in automotive, it's always had a special place in my heart. And I just love inside automotive facilities.
Okay, so let's do this. So you like the automotive space, right? Now, where you are And it doesn't have to be like where you are because everything is remote. So it doesn't have to be like, oh, I have to just depend on people. And you said you're now, wait, you're in North Carolina or you're in Delaware? I lost track there a little bit.
Oh no, you're fine. I'm in North Carolina.
Okay. So you have North Carolina but there are a lot of car places there, right? Because like, didn't Japan put a lot of their,
The bigger
order making in North Carolina or no?
So there, I want to say there's a Toyota because my wife worked at it the one time
Yeah.
for her makeup, and she got to do their corporate training videos there. And she said it was really neat. But yeah, but it's like Charlotte, Greensboro, Raleigh, bigger cities, which are all over 2 hours. We're by Myrtle. We're like a coastal
What
hospitality.
kind of automotive places
So
have challenges that maybe people either A, are losing their job and then need help, or B, maybe there's a lot of growth and they want to see how can I maybe get a better job, or how can I advance within the organization?
right,
Are there different automotive companies that you could think of that
not
would be fertile hunting grounds to get them as clients?
Not off the top of my head for nearby. And again, that's the other thing is like when I've done that before, where I've niche marketed, it doesn't do anything for me. It's like because I've altered before. Entertainment business was one of them. I've attacked the entertainment business people. I did get a couple clients out of that, but it's like the amount of resources you put into those email campaigns, we'll just call it, or whatever I'm doing, and money. It's kind of like it pays for itself, but you're like, well, I heard this was supposed to help you grow, right? So it's like you don't want to just like get by on marketing tactics, right? You're like, if this is what I paid, I don't want to just level out.
Well, let's dial back for a second. Matt, tell me, and I don't mean to be too pushy or forward, but I figured this is kind of a very different type of, LinkedIn Live, slash podcast, where we're like in real time talking about just business and how it works and what's going on and what people think and how they run their businesses and what works and what doesn't work. So I figure, hey, this is, pretty interesting for people to get a sense of like, hey, this is what goes on behind the scenes. This is what entrepreneurs go through and what they deal with and what their issues are and their challenges are. So let's say you would pick out, Tesla, and now you have these self-driving cars that have become really popular, like Cruise and Waymo or something like that. And there's probably a lot of opportunities in some of these places because some are going well and then some they're laying off people. So, and you do like the automotive shop and you do have that big personality.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something that could really focus on because you'd be happy because you like these kind of folks, because you like those businesses. And there's a lot going on in these spaces.
I know. And it's like, it is always in the back of my mind, kind of niching down. My problem is, I like helping everyone, really. It's not so much like, even like some of my favorite clients are like accountants, which tell you it's not the most glamorous job, but like going back to the thing, like I used to host a live thing for clients every week. And the problem is only one lady would show up and it's the same lady. And so I was like, well, how much time do I want to go into promoting?
So wait, so you would try stuff like that. And then instead, like,
and so it's
you
like,
get one person show up and it's like, this sucks. This is terrible.
So I quit that. I did that probably, I don't know, maybe 3 months of shows. And then I was like, well, this is a waste of time. So much fun.
When you say shows, well, it's like, this is different. This is not career stuff. This is shows you try to.
Career stuff. Like, yeah, it was like open Q&A where they can ask me anything.
So you're making it a show, even though it was career.
Yeah, it was
kind of an interesting concept. I like that.
Yeah, like a weekly show. Come on in.
Right.
They've asked me if you got an issue with your career, I'll answer anything I can on the spot. But then it was just me and the one gal. She was really cool, but it was just like I felt bad. She'd show up. I'm like, well, it's me and you again. I go, you got any questions this week? She's like, no. I'm like, all right, I'll see you next week. It got really depressing, and I just set it in my wheels. But what's cool is I used it to get my podcast reignited. So I kind of use those and just put them on Spotify, the audio, and then again, quit all that. And so right now, like I mentioned though, like I have it with my coach to do with this. It's like, the only problem is I'm kind of like, well, again, I don't want to be a live show of strangers. So it's got to be it's right. So I have to kind of figure out the logistics of it, but it is going to be something that will be here. I'm calling it the Job Sticker Tribe. because Job Stickers is like my website, is my gimmick website to kind of get you to MJW careers, because MJW is a handful. And so Job Stickers. And so I call it Job Sticker Nation. It's got an annual or monthly membership, $15. It exists right now. You get exclusive content, but again, I don't promote it a lot. And it's kind of like, my problem is I don't know like how to promote what and when and where. I'm very good at marketing, but I'm more of like, this is my post for the day and it's a value share for my audience. It's not I'm running this special, you know. Now I have done some of those here and there, but so it's like, for me, it's like, well, how much do I really want to push this Job Sticker Nation membership?
Right.
So it's a battle. Like you said, it's like when you're running the business, you only have 24 hours a day, and you only have so many, time to get some eyeballs on things. So you really like my efforts right now are mainly selling my program, right? So that's kind of where all the other stuff goes to the wayside then.
And so what's your program? Maybe you could share a little bit about your program. How does it work?
Yeah, so that's that 6 weeks. So like essentially 6 weeks, we meet each week. There's check-ins. You have homework, I have homework. It's like I mentioned, it's a very much do, don't think. Now there will be some thinking, obviously, but mainly like do a lot of this stuff, right? So go to this website, set up this profile, put up these alerts, put in this type of stuff, and then move on, right? So the website does the work for them. And that's what I'm a big believer of. Let me get some things working in the background, like recruiters do, right? Like we did. We'd work for candidates. They get a call on a Tuesday and they're pumped because now they got the interview at DuPont. So kind of things that work for them. What I say is you're trying to plant all seeds, turn over all stones we can, because there's a lot of sandboxes that we can go hang out in when we're job hunting or just life. And so how many shiny objects in those sandboxes are we going to run after? And you hear this all the time. Don't run it like Threads. Like, do I need to be on Threads? I don't care about Threads. I'm done trying to keep up with this stuff, right? I just got on TikTok this past year and that was enough. Although I'm kind of having fun with it. I'm a little wacky on there. It's the only place I'm really wacky with my marketing, but it's just fun. But that's the thing is like, I'm just, you know what? I'm going to keep trying to really just promote my quality product in the sandboxes I know will have the eyeballs I need, right? So I don't know if TikTok maybe, well, but I know LinkedIn will. I know there's some people on LinkedIn that'll, want to see me. So why not spend more time on there versus, I don't know, X, Twitter. I got to be on Twitter now. Like, I don't care. I don't have time. I got to hang with my son. I don't have time to be on Twitter.
So what kind of people are you seeing that come to you? Are they people in between jobs? Are they people who are trying to advance within their career and move up within the company? Are you seeing any trends?
That's a great question. It's a combination, but I will say, let's call it pre-tech layoffs. Pre-tech layoffs, it was an enormous amount of career shifters, and it was purely, I think, based off of that excitement of the Great Resignation. I'm like, which one was this one? And so when that happened, I got an influx of like teachers going to corporate, accountants going to VIT. They want to get in the help desk, or whatever. I keep using accountants, but really extreme transitions. And I was like, wow, this is something. So, and I like that because for me when I work with someone who's lateral move, it's easier. There's not much pulling, right? But then when I get someone who's very much like, how are we going to do this? Because I don't want to do accounting anymore. I want to go be an AI. Cool. So let's start to build the Legos. Let's start to build the Lego path of your journey and how we're going to get there, right? What's upskilling do we got to do? Does it cost money? Some of it, or can we get it for free? Are there certifications you might need? Now we're talking a little more investment, right? So, and how are we going to pepper your marketing collateral with all this stuff? So there's a lot to it. And it's like, I like that I can just tell my clients, don't think, just hang out with me and we'll get through this together. Because, me and you, we see it from macro level and we see the steps, right? But we just got to make sure that they're not overwhelmed. So keep it very snail's pace at front. And that's what I do with all my clients. I don't come in like this with my clients. This is just fun. With them, it's, I got to figure out the hell puzzle I'm solving. So that's essentially what my program does, though, is lean on me and let's get going, and do things the right way instead of just, again, hanging out in different sandboxes. Or what I say is going and fishing in lakes that you're trying to catch bass in, but you're using northern pike lures, and it's not even the time of day to catch fish, right? So it's like, what are you even doing out right now? So we want to get people on the right lakes, using the right lures, catching the fish they're trying to catch. And it takes a little time to get there. There's a lot of obstacles in the way. And by obstacles, I mean, fodder from this content provider and videos over here and blogs over there and movies. And you heard this person on TikTok say you don't need references. And, I keep it very logical. Look, you need a reference sheet because someone's going to ask for it eventually, right? Just have it handy. Do I need a cover letter? I don't know. There's crazy hiring managers that want to see them. Do you want them to vet you or not? If if you don't care about them, then don't have a cover letter, but what the hell does it take 2 minutes? So that's where I get annoyed. It's like, just play the game and you'll be okay. This is just a job hunt. We're just meant to get over this so you can get going on your journey again.
That sounds great. So, Matt, for people who want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to find you?
If they've survived today's show, they can on jobstickers.com. Come on through. We've got the stuff. We love rock and roll in our world. Jobstickers.com. That will provide you with all my links. It's kind of my link tree. So from there, you can check me out and all my doings online.
Right. Any last words you want to share? Any words of wisdom? Anything that maybe I didn't ask you that you'd like to share before we head out?
I promise, Jack, I'm not brown nosing you with this answer, but how I exit all my shows is be kind to the recruiters. Yeah. I was a recruiter again, and the problem with hiring is it's expensive, arduous, time consuming, because they have to go from identifying and sourcing all the way through the ringers of qualifying through background and induction and testing, and then they got to get on site and train, and then they leave. And so why do we get pissed off as hiring managers? Because we keep hiring putzes, and we don't want to hire more putzes. So don't be a putz. And
no, wait, but putz is a Yiddish word. So maybe how do you politely describe what it means for people who may not be aware of that lingo? It's clean. I don't want to get kicked off of LinkedIn. So,
just finding others. They're just people that'll come in like, you owe me this or you owe me. They're not empathetic, right? And so be empathetic to the recruiters, and please don't treat them like they already know you and owe you everything, because they don't, right? So just collect yourself and be as logical. And what do I say to my prospect calls? I always say, walk softly, carry a big stick, right? That kind of idea. Do that, because the interview rooms will appreciate that. They just want to know if you're the right fit. So less is more, but make that less super impactful and relatable, and you'll be in good shape.
Well, that's great. So I appreciate you giving some inside information about what goes on behind the scenes, what made you get into this industry, what you've done. So I think it's illuminating to just get a picture, into a glimpse into someone's entrepreneurial endeavor and what they're going through, what they're doing, how it works, how it doesn't work. And it cuts across all sectors. So I really appreciate your honesty, your openness, and sharing, everything about your journey. So I really appreciate you coming on the show. And once again, so they can reach you at Job Stickers. Can we go?
Like the pot stickers that everyone loves, Job Stickers though.
Perfect. .com, I guess, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. Excellent, Matt.
We have to do the .coms nowadays again, because everything is out there.
Dude, you're coming across like a grandfather. You're not old. This TikTok stuff, this Twitter stuff. You're too young to be saying that, man.
The curmudgeon.
The curmudgeon.
There was, what did I yesterday? Because my thing is, I do sometimes when I type period instead of the space bar, and then it'll say I think I was typing, let's just call it Nike shoes. I put Nike.shoes, and then all of a sudden it says, this link is not valid. I go, well, why would it be? It's a .shoes. Well, because apparently there's .shoes out there now, or whatever it was. So that's where I was like, another step. A nanosecond Apple.
All right. Well, Matt, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you,
All right.
Jack.
It was great chatting with you, my friend. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Take care.